The numbers are not in the 76ers' favor. Just how bad is this team without Joel Embiid and Paul George? Is it okay to panic right now, or is it too early in the game? We're going to break it all down coming up on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, you are Locked On with the Philadelphia 76ers. Kayla Santiago, Keith Pompey with you each and every day as we get right into the action. But your favorite podcast now does have a newsletter introducing Locked On 76ers daily newsletter, the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. So make sure you check it out today. And you can start the season with a big return to FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So we're going to unpack a little bit of everything here. The numbers, they do not look good. Even for players that they look good, there's still a lot of concerns right now. On top of that, when did the knee ever heal for Joel Embiid, or has it since his injury last season? And then the battle down low on Saturday, if Joel Embiid is ready to go with him and Zach Edey, it should be a fun one to watch. Kayla Santiago, Keith Pompey with you here each and every day. So, Keith, I first want to start out with Tyrese Maxey here. So Tyrese Maxey has been really carrying this team on his back. He might have some back pain after early on in this season for carrying the load for the Philadelphia 76ers. But right now, he does have a league high tie with Nikola Jokic, 31.5 points per game. But it's crazy. There's a lot of other areas that he's struggling in, especially behind the perimeter.
Yeah, I mean, he's struggling mightily. And another thing he's doing, he's leading the league in minutes played at 42 minutes a game. Oof. But he's shooting. He's made 11 of 48 three-pointers. That's it. Yeah. He's shooting 37.8 overall from the field. So, Tyrese, I hate to be blunt, but he's out there gunning a little bit, right? He has to, but he's out there, taking up a lot of shots, but he's not shooting for a very high percentage. You know what I mean? 42 minutes, made 11 of 48 threes and only shooting 37.8%. So those numbers overall aren't good.
They are not. And listen, I understand Tyrese Maxey is trying to pack a lot onto him. He probably thinks, well, if I go up there and shoot, I have a 50-50 chance of getting 3 points on the board. It just really hasn't been working in his favor. But something even worse than that right now, the 76ers are a league worst right now, last in the NBA in three-point shooting percentage, shooting 27.7% from beyond the arc and making 9 threes per game. Now, there's a lot of people, especially in the chat, saying, we'll take 2 stars off of every team. How will they look? I understand that. But the biggest thing with Joel Embiid is it's consistently, hey, when he gets double teamed, who is he going to kick it out to so that they can shoot a 3 and then you can go back down the court and play on defense? How does it look right now, Keith, when Joel Embiid comes back and all of a sudden you have teammates around you that are shooting a league worst around the perimeter? I'm not saying this is how it's going to be forever, but it's very, very tough when they're already not getting off to a nice start behind the arc. And now you bring Embiid in, and the whole purpose of getting these guys to be able to kick it out to them and shoot is to make the triple.
Yeah, exactly. Now, they may get some easier looks because Embiid's going to be there. Yeah. And what's going to happen is, people are going to double team him. People aren't really double teaming, Andre Drummond. And then people are also going to have to account for Paul George. So the looks are going to be easier. But you are correct. They're only making 9 threes per game, which is extremely low in today's NBA when everybody's chucking a bunch of threes. And that's, like you said, that's last in the league. And also the 3-point percentage, 27.7. So that's a struggle. I mean, it really is. And then the crazy point that's also telling is, they can't make foul shots either. So, I mean, they rank 23rd in the league at 74% from the foul line and also defensive rebounds. And you've noticed they're always getting killed on the offensive board. They're last in the league and rebounding, defensive rebounding. So, some of that, I think, we all know that Embiid's a great free throw shooter. We also know that he can get rebounds. But at the same time, it's not good because I hate to say it, this team is extremely bad without Joel Embiid and Paul George.
And it's interesting. I was watching the game the other night, and I said, wow, it's crazy to think that we're in an era where your center could be your best free throw shooter, because you look back on the days, even going back to the Superman Dwight Howard days, where if you sent him to the line, you're like, okay, well, here we go. You might not get any points. Now it's your center that could be your best free throw shooter. You can always depend on Joel Embiid from the foul line. And right now, the Sixers just not dependable. But this has not only been an issue right now, it's been an issue since last season and really since Joel Embiid has been injured. So if you look at it last year with Embiid, they were 31-8. Without him, 16-27. They averaged 120 points when he was on the floor, just 109 when he was not on the floor, plus 1 rebound differential coming in there when he was on the floor, minus 3.9 when he wasn't on the floor. So this really raises concerns. And I know a lot of people are not happy about the negativity, but we're being realistic here. It raises concerns because they've already said that Joel Embiid is going to be monitored throughout the season, not playing back-to-backs. When you look at those numbers and you say, okay, it was bad last year and you're already getting off to a really tough start this season, how do you kind of make sense of all that? Because you don't want to be in a situation where you get into the playoffs and all of a sudden you're a lower seed trying to get in and it's a whole issue. And I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but this team cannot figure out how to play without Joel Embiid. Keith, I'm going to ask you this, though. Do you think that this team could survive if Paul George is able to play more than Joel is, especially if Joel's out on the back-to-backs and Paul George can maybe step it up a notch for this squad?
I mean, it's one of those things where you would say you hope so for if you're the Sixers, but we don't know. I mean, we don't. I mean, I think that they'll be better. I mean, let's think about it. I mean, right now, yeah, I think they will be better. But the thing is, right now, the Sixers are in the bottom 4 teams in the Eastern Conference. I mean, they are. They're like one of the worst 4 teams. So, yeah, George would elevate them. But the question is, how many games is he going to play, right? Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where they're saying they're going to give him the night off too. They're going to do load management with him. But the problem is when they don't play, they're just a bad team. So, yeah, George can help out. It'll be him and the Maxey show. But at the same time, who's going to help out with the rebounding? Who's going to help out with the other things? There's a lot of different things that has to happen, and they just don't have bigs. You look at Paul George at 6'8", he would be the second tallest guy out there next to Drummond, right? So I mean, seriously, he's the second outside of Drummond. He's the second tallest guy on the roster because Adembona is only 6'8" too, 6'7", 6'8". So there goes a lot of issues that they have. So, yes, they would be a better team, but they're not a championship contending team without Joel Embiid.
And, when you make the case for MVP, and clearly Joel is not worried about that this year and is probably not going to play enough games to even make the case. But you look at the most valuable player for your team, and Joel Embiid has to be in that conversation at all times just because you see it each and every game. When they don't have him in there, it's not even the points. It's being able to take up the space, being able to make that rim protector, being able just to be that leader out there on the floor. There's so many little things that Joel Embiid is able to do that this team almost falls apart without him. And it really is concerning when you look at it. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, there's no time to panic. It's early in the season. But to me, and Keith, I want to get your thoughts on this. You take Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown off the Celtics, I still think they beat the Pistons. You take Giannis and Dame off the Bucks, I still think they beat the Pistons. And I'm not saying the Pistons are the worst team ever to play the game of basketball, but we were both shocked when the Sixers looked terrible against them the other night. So, yes, when you take 2 stars off a very, very good team, they're going to downgrade a little bit, but this is just a collapse almost you're looking at right now.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, I mean, it's not the worst team to ever play basketball, but it is a horrible team, right? And their upgrade was getting Tobias Harris and B-ball Paul, who can't get in the game, right? So here's the thing. This is a great question. I was thinking about when you talked about Paul George, right? So if you add Paul George to the Sixers and you have Paul George and Tyrese Maxey, they're not better than those Clippers teams that used to choke. They're not. And it's not a knock against Maxey, but let's just say if you take Maxey in his prime right now with a healthy Kawhi that they had a couple of years ago, Paul George and Kawhi is a better pairing than Paul George and Maxey. But then we go to the bench. They had Lou Will coming off the bench as the sixth man. They had a couple other wings that were coming off, younger guys, athletic guys. You know, Norman Powell. They had a lot of guys. They had Marcus Morris. They had Nico Batum. They had all these different guys when they went on. So you look at that Clippers team that was known for choking and underachieving is better than this Sixers team with Paul George and Maxey. And that's not a knock. It's just that their supporting cast for the Clippers were much better than what the Maxey and Paul George cast is.
Yeah, and I think my takeaway from this is that I am worried because you look at it right now, and Joel Embiid is just a centerpiece, whether people like to say it or not. I know we've talked about prior that Tyrese Maxey might be the leader of this team, but it still is Joel Embiid's team, and it will be for a little bit more. But I look at it now, and you say this is a total waste unless they get to the Eastern Conference Finals of not playing Joel Embiid because you see just how bad it is. Now, will the Sixers probably win some games with this unit? Maybe. But you look at those numbers from last year that we talked about moments ago without Joel Embiid on the floor, the same thing is going to happen, if not worse. So Joel is the centerpiece, and it's not an overreaction. And I know people don't want to hear that. I understand it's negative. You think I'm going to be talking about the Sixers all negative? No, but they're collapsing right now, and it is just tough to watch. So we're going to talk about the superstar coming in because what really is going on with this knee? Why can't Joel Embiid play yet? Is he practicing? Is he on the 5-on-5 scrimmages? We're going to take a look in just a moment. And hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return to FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. First $5 bet, that's FanDuel.com. Visit FanDuel.com today. So we're going to talk about a Philadelphia team that maybe can make people smile just a little bit more. And no hate to the Eagles right now because they were able to get a big win last week. They come into the game against the Jacksonville Jags -7.5 favorites. Now, that's no surprise to me. I do think that the Philadelphia Eagles can beat this team pretty handily when they take them on later this week. I don't want to jinx anything, but I do think that Philadelphia will come out on top. Now, bets do change each and every day at times, so make sure you head over to FanDuel right now. If you think the Birds have the best chance at the -7.5 favorites in this game against Jacksonville, make sure you head over to FanDuel right now to place your bets, America's #1 sportsbook. Be sure to visit FanDuel today to place all of your sports bet. There's no better place to do so than FanDuel. Drama with the knee. I'm stressed about it. I will give Joel Embiid my knee if he needs it, people, okay? I've said that before. He can take both of them and combine them if it works, if it can keep him healthy. I promise I don't need them right now. But it's so frustrating because it's the conversation we constantly have been having. And when Kawhi Leonard backed out of the Olympics because they wanted to make sure he was ready for the season, I applauded him because I said, Kawhi's done this before. He's won an NBA championship on load management, and he played more games that season than Joel Embiid will probably play this season coming up. But Joel Embiid, now it's coming out that maybe he wasn't fully healthy playing in the Olympics. Maybe he did push it too much. And I do understand the competitiveness in him and wanting to play for the United States. I get that. I love that. But at the same time, now we're seeing it weary into this season. So there's been a lot of talks about Nick Nurse saying, well, we want him to be 100%, the knee 100%. Is it ever really going to get there? Because if that was re-injured in the Olympics, it may take a lot more time than we all think.
Yeah, I don't think it was re-injured in the Olympics, like that the report said. I do think what happened is, like we talked about it before, one of those things where Joel came back too soon. And from what people are saying is that he did not suffer a new injury to his repaired knee during the Olympics. It's just that the knee is still unstable. Like there's concern that he may do further damage if he rushes back. So in other words, it's kind of like when he came back too soon. The knee is still kind of wobbly, right? Messed up, maybe didn't heal 100% the way that it should have, right? And he was out there playing. And he's just a little concerned. So I kind of, it's one of those things where what do you believe now, right? Because, there's a whole bunch of lack of transparency going. So, like, what do you believe? Now, did he re-injure it while he was playing in the playoffs, but then said, hey, it's okay. I'm not going to, like, do more damage to it. I just have to, like, basically manage it. So, you know what I mean? Like, so it's just a lot of stuff coming out right now. But what sources are saying is, like, no, he didn't re-injure it. It's just that it's not 100% back to what it should be. But the one thing we do know is he keeps going to the doctors and getting it checked out. So something had to happen.
And I think we're never really going to truly know the answer until we see him out on the floor. Now, let me ask you this, Keith. You look at it right now, and if Joel Embiid further damages that knee and it's over for the season, then this was all for nothing. Because you look at it and you say, at that point, you just get Paul George, you bring him in, you try to get to this championship run, and now Joel Embiid is no longer able to play. I hate to break it to you guys, but there's no way that Paul George and Tyrese Maxey are bringing this team to an NBA Finals alone. They absolutely need Joel Embiid and a healthy Joel Embiid at that. So I'm going to ask you this, Keith. Are you okay with him sitting out longer if he really did have a re-injury to that knee, whatever it may be? Or do you feel like he needs to come back sooner than later because how this team is playing right now? Clearly, we both want him to be healthy. We're not saying that. But how much is too much? And how much is it okay? Well, he can go out there and play on it. It might be uncomfortable. Or no, he's going to go out there and he has a chance of really doing some severe damage.
Well, that's a great question, because if he really did mess up his knee and this and that, like, he has to sit out until it's 100% healthy. He does, because basically, if it's really messed up and he comes back and everybody wants to see him come back, we all know that it's like a ticking time bomb. It's about to go, he's about to re-injure it. And then next thing you know, he's going to be out for even longer. And at that point, you might as well just cancel Christmas, because the Sixers aren't going anywhere. So, my thing is, this team is bad. Like, let's keep it 100. This team is bad. But at the same time, you're not going to go anywhere in the playoffs if Embiid is not at 100%. So whenever he is able to come back, you just hope and pray that, these guys can go on a run and weather a storm and do something, because, you can't afford to allow him or put him in a position to re-injure that knee.
I think this is the most nervous I've been for a Sixers season. Now, Keith, you've covered them for a long time, so I'm sure there's definitely situations or even a little bit more nervous. But for me, looking back, I never really got to enjoy the AI years. I really wasn't even fully developed yet as a child. So my true years of watching the Philadelphia 76ers was Drew Holiday, Andre Iguodala, Lou Will, all those guys. And, well, you didn't really expect much from them because they never had a superstar on their team when all those guys were developing. But, you looked at Joel Embiid's seasons, you say, okay, he's young. You look at the Jimmy Butler year. All right, Game 7, Kawhi shot. It's the worst way it could have ended, but also they took the Raptors to 7 games and it ended on a quadruple bounce. Then you look at Al Horford. You get all excited for that. Oh, my gosh, he's going to make this team so much better. That went downhill really quickly. But I think for me, every season there was a sense of, okay, there can be a bounce back here. I'm not saying if they don't get far this year, there can't be, but Joel doesn't have a big prime left. So if something happens this year, who knows what's going to end up happening? This is the year to me I'm not saying they need to win an NBA championship, but they sure need to get past the second round. So for me, this is the most nervous I have ever been for a Philadelphia 76ers season. Keith, I'm not going to ask you if you're most ever nervous, but how long ago can you remember kind of feeling this way going into a year with this team?
Well, that's a great question. I want to say the 1 year was the year after. Wow, I felt this way as far as so uneasy about a team. I want to say it was Brett Brown's final season, right? Because you knew they made that. That's when they got rid of Jimmy Butler and didn't re-sign JJ Redick, and they brought in Al Horford, and you're wondering, like, how is this going to work, right? So to me, that was a crazy year. Also, last season was crazy too because of you didn't know what was going to happen with James Harden, but this one, it's kind of like a little crazy because when you look at it, the two stars are hurt. You know they're going to come back, but when like this is going all in because I'm going to tell you this. Do you think Kyle Lowry's coming back next year? Do you think Eric Gordon's coming back next year? Reggie Jackson, the Dancing Bear, maybe.
Nope.
So
they're on borrowed time. They're on borrowed time.
They're going to have a core, but then next thing you know, they're going to be bringing in new role players. So it's kind of like each year is different. And this is one of those things where you look at it like, you got to get it right. And not only that, Joel's going to get older. Paul George is going to get older. They have injury histories. So, it's a kind of like this is now or never for the 76ers. Definitely.
The nerves are here, people, and I don't like it. It was a spooky day when the 76ers lost to the Pistons, and that spooky Halloween feeling is still here coming into this season. But the Philadelphia 76ers will be playing on Saturday. Is there a chance we see Joel Embiid? Maybe. We don't know for sure yet, but at the same time, if there is, there's going to be a fun battle down low that we do have to touch on when we come back. And there is no better feeling than experiencing a game live, being in the crowd, being in the atmosphere, especially in Philadelphia or when a Philly team plays on the road. And there is a super deal going on right now that you won't want to miss. The super deal for the Eagles versus the Ravens. I mean, how could you beat this? Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. I can't wait for this game on December 1st. It is going to be a fun one, and make sure you get your deals now on Gametime. You will not want to miss it. So right now, $35 off. Club 204, row 7 for $542. The great deal. Upper end zone, row 10 at the top, 10% value. Make sure you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, make an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It is Gametime. All right, so the battle of the bigs. We don't know which big yet for the 76ers, but we might know soon if Joel Embiid makes his triumphant return where fans go crazy and they love it, or if we'll see Drummond and Yabusele once again. But let's talk about the side for the Grizzlies right now. Zach Edey, somebody that a lot of people loved in college, and then when draft time came, well, they thought that he might drop. He gets picked up by Memphis, and this is somebody that I really, really like what he's been able to do so far this season. He's still really raw. He's still really young. It's kind of what you expect from him at this point right now, averaging 8.8 points per game and about 16 minutes per game as well. That's up to the Bucks game, not counting the Milwaukee Bucks game. And you look at it right now, and I don't think defensively he can keep up with Joel Embiid at all. I think Joel Embiid is going to kind of dominate really, really well in that battle. But offensively, you never know what kind of run for the money he can give the Philadelphia 76ers, especially if we're looking at the backups in Drummond and Yabusele if Edey gets some time against them.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I think Drummond and Yabusele, like, he's a little bit too big for them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We're talking about, he's 7'4", 305 pounds, and he's 7'4". It's not like he has his sneakers on. He's like, being measured flat-footed. But the one thing, so I think he'll be tough. Like you said, he's averaging 8.8 points. The crazy thing is, if you look at it, the most minutes that he's played this season was 23 minutes, right? His first game, he played 18 minutes. Second game, 14, only 14 minutes. Then he played 13 minutes, 23, and 15. So, he gets into foul trouble, though. Like, he fouled out one game, and then the last two games he played in, he had four fouls. But, it's like he's not going to be on the floor a lot, but I do think that he does have a towering presence to where it's like Embiid doesn't play, he may be able to use his height advantage over people, So, but the one thing is, I think he needs to become a better rebounder. He's like, for as big as he is, and now he doesn't play a lot of minutes. His season high was 9 rebounds when he played in 23 minutes. So that's not bad, but he's only averaging 4 rebounds a game.
Yeah, for something that's 7 foot, you can't only average 4 rebounds per game. Now, I think that if he plays against Joel Embiid, he's going to foul out, because I don't think anybody that is a rook is able to face Joel Embiid, especially when Joel comes into that first game. He's hearing the noise. He wants to play well. But the 76ers, without Joel, they do run a much smaller lineup. So it could be an interesting battle down low. I'm excited to see it. But I think this is going to be a good test for Philadelphia if Joel Embiid doesn't play. And we've talked about how their rebounding has been complete garbage, to be honest, if I'm going to put it forward. So when you look at it right now, this is going to be a big test for not only Edey saying, okay, this team has not been good in rebounding. Let me try to get up there and get some boards and really increase my rebounding value. For the other side, on the Philadelphia 76ers, they got to figure that out. They've got to crash the glass. You look at some things Tyrese Maxey said. He says, we're not good in transition right now. We're being out-rebounded like crazy. And a lot of the ways they're being out-rebounded is just hustle. They're not hustling to get the board. They're not grabbing the rock with 2 hands. They're being lazy with it, with a lot of other young, small guards moving around them and just corralling it and getting second chance opportunities. So I think without Joel Embiid in this game, Keith, I'm definitely going to focus most on the rebounding with Edey in the game, because this is something that the Sixers need to improve on. Andre Drummond, best rebounder ever. Well, he needs to feed that off on everybody else on this team, because it's not good.
Yeah, it's not good at all. Like, we talked about it being ranked last in defensive rebounds. And, yesterday it was for a while, they were getting destroyed on the offensive boards too, or 2 days ago. So, it's one of those things they have to work with it. And not only that, or work to improve it, but not only that, it's kind of like they keep saying at times where they're the smaller team and teams are crashing the boards and getting it. But a lot of times, it's the guards running in there, either tipping it so somebody else can get the ball or whatever. It just seems like they're being out hustled. They're always a step too slow, because a lot of them are like 50-50 balls to go out and get, and they're not being able to get them.
They're not. So it's really tough to make a score prediction right now, because we still don't know the word on Joel Embiid and Paul George. Hopefully today we will get a little bit more clarification on if they will play or they will not. So I'm going to ask you 2 score predictions here, Keith. I'm going to say without the superstars and with the superstars. Let's say it's this unit that has been happening right now. Do you think that the Philadelphia 76ers can beat this Grizzlies team with Tyrese Maxey and a lot of other guys running around them?
It's crazy because, I'm looking at this team and I think Memphis is going to be tired. I do. I think they're going to be tired. I mean, we look at it right now. Memphis has so far they played 6 games, right? So they're also I think they got, when they play the Sixers, it's going to be the third game in 4 nights. Yeah. So with that being said, I think the Sixers may be able to squeak by a young team like that, right? Maybe. So I think that the Sixers will get it. If Joel Embiid comes back and play, they'll win that as well. But it's going to be close. I mean, it is. You know what? I take that back. I'm sorry. If Joel doesn't play, the Sixers lose. If Joel plays, the Sixers win.
Wow, I thought we were going to disagree for a sec because I was going to say I do not think that they're going to win this game if Joel does not play. The chemistry isn't there for me. They're not clicking. I don't know what's going on. We talked about last night, maybe they play Jared McCain a little bit more. I don't think he's going to be the difference maker for this team, but maybe, I don't know. You never know. I don't even think we know what's going on with this organization right now and this team. So I predict with Tyrese Maxey and the other co-players, I'm not even going to say co-stars, that they fall in this game against the Grizzlies. I understand they've had a tough schedule in terms of how they played, and the Sixers have had a lot of time to rest, but I almost think the rest is hurting Philadelphia a little bit right now, and I think that they're just not in a rhythm, not really getting the rotation set. So without Joel and PG, they lose. With Joel and PG, they have to win. I mean, they have to win, because if they don't, and then it's like, all right, well, these guys are back. Why were we excited for these guys to get back? So they have to win, right? I'm putting that into manifestation right now.
And I was wrong. And what I had is so they last night they played their second game of a back-to-back when they played Milwaukee. So they'll actually have Friday off, and then they'll play on Saturday. So that's how it goes. Now, here's the deal. Though. We're talking about Zach Edey. But Jaren Jackson Jr. is a beast, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if the Sixers have anybody who can guard him. I mean, and I'm not saying he's an all-star type guy or anything like that. And the reason why I'm saying they don't have anyone that could guard him is I'm just thinking, he's 6'10", he's a power forward. He's averaging 20.7 points. He had 30 points a couple nights ago. So I'm just looking at it as if like he's just a matchup problem for, the centers and the power forwards for the Sixers if Embiid doesn't play.
Yeah, we've already seen their defense just not be intact. I don't think they get a win either. I think defensively they struggled so much. But you know what? Let's hope that Joel Embiid and Paul George do play, and all these fines and all this not being transparent is done and over with, right? Hopefully that's what we can all say is going to happen before the game against the Grizzlies. We are going to have to wait and see. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On 76ers. For Keith Pompey, I'm Kayla Santiago. And before we set things off, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On 76ers daily newsletter. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free right now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On 76ers newsletter. Thank you all so much for tuning in. When we come back tomorrow, maybe we'll have some news about the superstars. So make sure you stay locked on with the Philadelphia 76ers.